Meanwhile, more aid and weapons have been pledged at an international donor conference in Copenhagen. Earlier, I spoke to our international affairs editor Armen Georgian about what has been promised by Western nations.
Denmark is offering a mixture of financial aid and weapons supplies, and Britain, which has been one of the most staunch supporters of Ukraine in the last few months particularly, it says that it will send more multiple launch rocket systems and also more precision guided missiles. And speaking of high precision missiles, there were already deliveries earlier this month from Germany and the United States to Ukraine. Politically, obviously, this conference is significant in the sense that Ukraine is hoping that these European defense ministers will maintain the kind of support that the US is maintaining. So the US Defense Secretary said in the last few days that the US will continue to supply Ukraine with weapons for, quote, as long as it takes. And for the administration of President Zelensky, it's probably equally important that European leaders maintain that sort of as long as it takes mentality.
And as you said, Armen, the West have repeatedly pledged more weapons for Ukraine. Has there actually been any tangible effect so far on the ground?
What has changed in the last few weeks is that we've seen Ukraine being able to strike targets further away. So previously it was only really able to hit chosen targets up to 30 or 40 kilometers away. That has now changed quite obviously. Ukraine hitting targets 50 kilometers away or more. We've seen them do this with ammunition depots in the Donbass, for example, and really a Ukrainian effort now with these longer range missiles to compromise logistics in the rear areas, which in turn then slows down a little bit the Russian advance in the Donbass. It doesn't stall it completely, but certainly slows it down a bit, seemingly. And we've seen also in the south, Ukraine using these HIMARS systems against, for example, a Russian airbase in Melitopol. So we're also sensing a bit more confidence in President Zelensky's latest announcement, for example, after the explosions at the airbase in Crimea. He said that Crimea would be, quote, liberated. And that's a different kind of rhetoric from what we heard from him a couple of months ago when he said something along the lines of it will be difficult for Russia to recognize Crimea as Ukrainian territory. So at that point, there was talk of some kind of negotiations to get Ukraine and Russia back to the negotiating table. That has firmly been put to one side now, and Zelensky instead emphasizing the, quote, liberation of Crimea. But I think we have to be very cautious with statements like that from Zelensky, simply because if you look at what military analysts say, Western military analysts, they believe that these long-range missile systems, although they've certainly helped Ukraine, they have not decisively swung the military balance in Ukraine's favor. And therefore, with that in mind, we have to be skeptical about Ukrainian government claims that it can actually recover all the territories that it lost in 2014.